Terrorists in Belgium killed 32 people in attacks at Brussels airport and a train station in March. Former professional basketball player Sebastien Bellin was among the wounded at the airport. He was on his way home to his wife and 2 young daughters in Michigan at the time. Vladimir Duthiers of our streaming network, that's CBSN, has followed Bellin's remarkable story over these past 8 months. His recovery is a show of strength to the terrorist.
I'm thinking, I got to make it. 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 I got to see my daughters again. I got to see my girls.
We first met Sebastien Bellin in his hospital room in Belgium, just days after he was injured in the Brussels terror attack. The former athlete was headed home from a business trip in Europe when the blast shattered his right hip and left leg.
Just bone and flesh just sticking out from just underneath my belt. I'm just so focused on the instinct of survival.
Doctors were uncertain whether he would walk again.
I look forward to challenge myself to get back to where I was before.
We were with Bellin when his father flew in from California to pay him a surprise visit.
What are you doing? You can't do that to me.
And again, when he was finally reunited with his daughters.
Come here. Come here. Why are you afraid? You think you're going to hurt You're not going to hurt that.
After 6 surgeries, 79 days in the hospital, and 14 more in rehabilitation.
Welcome home, Papa.
Oh my God.
Bellin returned to his home in Michigan to make the most of his second shot at life. For CBS This Morning, Vladimir Duthiers, New York.
A good raspberry is always good. Doctors predicted that it would take Sebastien Bellin a year and a half to walk again, but take a look at this. Yeah. His determination helped him reach that goal. Here you come, Sebby, in just 4 months.
Oh, that's
we are
great.
thrilled to welcome
glad to have you
Sebastien Bellin.
here.
Thank you so much.
Really glad to have you here.
And walking in on your own.
Yeah.
Hi, Sebby. I love that
Good
your
man.
dad calls you Sebby, so
That's
I'm going to
right.
call you that, too. I got the biggest kick when you walked through today and you were carrying your little daughter in the arms. I got so choked up because we've all been following your journey, and it's so good to see you. The doctor said it would take you a year and a half. You had other ideas. Why were you able to do it so quickly, do you think?
Oh, I think it's, it's a question of motivation. And
Had you set a goal, though?
Absolutely. The attacks happened on March 22nd, and my oldest daughter, Cecilia's birthday is July 22nd. And, I'm not great at math, but when the doctors told me the news, the first few days, there's so much negativity that's given to you. You're not going to be able to do this, you can't do that, because they want to give you the worst case scenario, not to build your hopes up. And so when they told me I wouldn't walk for, over a year, I just said, that's not possible.
I'm walking for her birthday.
That's right.
Did you do it on her birthday?
Yep. 4 months later, I walked on her birthday.
Yeah.
And these are kind of milestones that you look back on and say, well, that's really what made it. When you're walking for your daughter, it's definitely a different motivation.
We saw that picture when you were laying there, Sebby. You had to rely on the kindness of strangers as you're laying there, really totally helpless.
Yeah.
In the airport that day.
Look, you need a lot of luck to overcome these kind of things. When you lose 50% of your blood, when your legs are shattered, I got a bullet through the hip, so you can't do this by yourself. And so I was very aware.
You were observant too, though.
Yeah, well, I think that's because it wasn't, I didn't let fear overcome, myself. Like I didn't let fear control me. And I just accepted the fact that, look, you're not getting out of this. You're not walking out of here. And then when you accept it, then it no longer controls you, and you start being able to focus on things that maybe other people lose track of. So a scarf, a suitcase up to elevate your legs, a baggage cart in the back where I became mobile again. Those are all things that I noticed that really saved my life.
How has everything that's happened to you changed you?
Well, I say that again, I'm lucky in a way that I was so close to death, because there was dead people around me. There were body parts on me, from other people. So the closer you are to death, the easier it is to overcome it, because you realize how lucky you are.
The pictures are so graphic, your descriptions are graphic as well. I wonder, you were thinking about your kids right after this happened. How do you talk to your kids about what the pictures that they see and what happened to you today?
That's a great question. So I think it's it's a learning experience for them. And I think, you know, my wife's a teacher, so I kind of, you know, nudge her and say, you know, how do we move on from this? And I think the big thing is to say, look, really terrible things sometimes happen, but you can overcome it and you can move little by little. Sometimes it takes a lot of time, but you can overcome it. And it's not, don't try to make the big step, you know, take little steps at a time. So it's in the hospital for 3 months, and then it's, you know, on crutches, and then it's this, and then it's that, and then it's being able to get back in the gym and do all those things. It's step-by-step progress. So they see that anything overwhelming can actually also be tackled by taking it one step at a time.
Are they still nervous for you because you're still traveling?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Vanessa, it's hard to, you know, if I feel like a teenager, you know, when Vanessa sees me packing to go on a trip, you know, where are you going?
Yes.
What's in your bag? You know, what's going on? So it's, yeah, it takes time. You know, it just takes time. But the most important thing is, you know.
You said you had a gut feeling of danger, Sebi, which I thought was interesting in Laz's, not Laz's, in Vlad's piece on Saturday. You said you had a gut feeling of danger.
Yeah,
when you were in Brussels.
I've always been, you know, I always value experiences. You know, we have a saying where I always say in our family, invest in experiences. So the more experiences you have, the more you tend to have the luggage or the tools to overcome things. And, you know, in the 38 years I lived on 3 continents of the world, I speak 4 languages, you know, these are all experiences that somehow it fed me to believe that there's something wasn't really right, you know. And the night before, I was in a restaurant with huge, big glass windows, which you see in the 48-hour piece. And they, honestly, I just imagined Paris and people like terrorists coming down the road and just starting shooting up. Wow. So I think my body and my mind was preparing itself. I don't know. And there's certain things, like at the check-in counter, I realized that one of the gates was closed. So I said, well, that's strange. And this was a few minutes before the first blast. And I was just picking up on things that I think mentally I was maybe a little bit more prepared than others to face it.
What's ahead for you?
Ahead, I mean, it's, you know, one day at a time, the old cliche, where when you're really, really close to death, I mean, everything seems there's so much clarity. There's so many wonderful things, like just getting up in the morning. Yeah. You know, whether it's Vanessa, you know, tapping me on the shoulder or whatever. It's just it's the best thing. I mean, life just takes a completely different turn for you, and that's why I'm saying it's a real gift. Yeah. You know, I took a lot of, let's say, heat for saying that, because there's a lot of people that died, a lot of people that lost. But for me, it really is a gift, because life is simplified. You know?
Yeah, and I know your beautiful family is so glad to have you back. Thank you for bringing them here as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Sebastien.
we're very glad to see you in person.
Yes. Thank you for
This guy just keeps smiling. I love it.
I know.
There's a lot to be thankful for.
Absolutely. Thank you again.